The judge didn't just speak, he shut the door on the narrative Blake Lively's team had spent months carefully crafting. Everyone expected a definitive public victory, a moment where she would be vindicated in the eyes of the law and her fans alike. Instead, the court delivered a procedural blow that left her side scrambling. By pushing back on additional filings and narrowing the scope of the entire proceeding, the judge effectively stripped away the dramatic flair her legal team was counting on. It wasn't just a setback, it was a total redirection of the case that has the entire internet questioning what happens next for the star. Observers in the courtroom noted that the atmosphere shifted the moment the judge began addressing the latest requests. Blake's legal team was reportedly still in the middle of pursuing attorney's fees from Justin Baldoni and the Wayfair parties, hoping to turn earlier counterclaims into a financial and symbolic win. But the court's response was described as increasingly constrained and procedural. Instead of allowing the case to become a platform for broader industry arguments, the judge kept it strictly to the narrow legal questions at hand. This refusal to let the case expand has left many wondering if the legal momentum is finally starting to stall. The fallout from this ruling was almost instantaneous across social media, where the narrative has taken a sharp turn away from Blake. While her supporters were busy framing the situation as a fight for accountability and workplace protections, critics were quick to point out the disconnect. To many online, these grand reframes feel less like legal strategy and more like desperate narrative positioning in the court of public opinion. Every time a new procedural update drops, it's being treated as a symbolic win or loss, and right now, the symbols aren't looking particularly favorable for Lively's camp as they navigate this transition. A recurring theme in the ongoing debate is the perception that Blake's legal strategy has become purely symbolic. Even as the actual legal process remains grounded in dry technical questions, her team continues to release statements that attempt to reframe setbacks as partial victories. It's a standard move in high-profile litigation where public messaging is considered just as important as the courtroom outcome, but it's a dangerous game to play. When the public starts to see through the spin, the credibility of the entire case begins to crumble, and that's exactly what seems to be happening as the legal fatigue starts to set in. Media coverage of the entire situation has shifted from high-energy excitement to a tone of visible exhaustion. Headlines are becoming repetitive, focusing on the same ongoing conflicts and incremental legal steps rather than any definitive resolutions. This has created a sense among the audience that the case is dragging through stages of diminishing novelty. People are still paying attention, but the enthusiasm is declining rapidly. In this environment, even a minor procedural update from a judge is amplified, because it's one of the few pieces of concrete news in a sea of PR-driven speculation and repetitive drama. While Blake is stuck in the legal trenches, her husband Ryan Reynolds seems to be operating on a completely different frequency. His public schedule remains packed with professional promotions and high-profile appearances that have absolutely nothing to do with the ongoing case. This stark contrast has led to a massive wave of speculation about the emotional and public alignment between the two. Some commentators are suggesting that the distance is a calculated move to protect Ryan's personal brand from the fallout, while others see it as a sign of deeper tension. Either way, the visual of him thriving while she struggles is hard for the public to ignore. The drama surrounding the production of It Ends With Us continues to be a major lightning rod for controversy. New reports suggest there are competing narratives about how the final cut of the film actually came together. Some claims circulating online suggest that early versions of the movie tested significantly differently with audiences compared to what was eventually released in theaters. These fragmented reports have fueled a theory that the creative balance of the project was a major point of tension behind the scenes. It wasn't just a movie production, it was a battle for control that is now spilling out into the public eye in the worst way. One of the most shocking claims to emerge is the existence of the so-called Justin version of the film. According to circulating commentary, test audiences actually responded more strongly to Justin Baldoni's performance and his creative direction than they did to other iterations. They reportedly found his version to have more emotional clarity and on-screen authenticity. This feedback allegedly influenced internal discussions about the film's tone and direction, creating even more friction. If these claims are true, it paints a picture of a production where the creative vision was being pulled in two opposite directions at the same time. As the rumors grew, the internet did what it does best and created the meme-like concept of the Ryan Reynolds cut. While there is no substantiated evidence that Ryan actually had his own version of the film, the mere suggestion of it reflects how chaotic the situation has become. It shows that the public no longer believes the official studio accounts of how the film was made. Instead, they see a project that was entangled in celebrity influence and power struggles. Every new rumor builds on the last, creating a narrative of a film that was less about art and more about who had the most leverage in the editing room. Blake's recent public appearances have done little to quiet the skeptics, as every move she makes is now scrutinized under a microscope. At major events like the Met Gala, users have been analyzing everything from her styling choices to her body language. Some believe she appears more cautious and controlled than in previous years, as if she is hyper-aware of the shifting public sentiment. Others argue that this is just a natural reaction to the intense controversy, but the perception of a more guarded persona is sticking. She no longer has the effortless charm that once defined her brand, replaced by something much more calculated. Even unrelated business moves are getting caught in the crossfire of this PR disaster. A recent high-priced customizable handbag collaboration drew intense criticism online, not because of the product itself, but because of the timing. Audiences felt it was a massive disconnect from the serious nature of the legal and production disputes she's currently facing. It's a classic example of how, once a public narrative turns negative, every single thing a celebrity does is seen through that lens. A luxury handbag moment that should have been a win ended up feeling tone-deaf and out of touch with the reality of her situation. There are also whispers about the heavy-duty crisis communication strategies being employed behind the scenes. Some reports have pointed to the involvement of high-level reputation management professionals with backgrounds in intelligence and security consulting. While these types of figures are common in Hollywood, their presence in this specific case has amplified the sense of intensity. It suggests that Blake's team isn't just trying to win a legal case, they are fighting a full-scale war for her reputation. This level of strategic escalation has made critics even more skeptical of every public statement released by her camp. One of the biggest points of contention is how her team has tried to frame the legal outcome as having wider implications for workplace protections. Supporters argue this is about systemic change and accountability in the entertainment industry. However, critics are calling it a reach, arguing that it's an attempt to turn a specific personal conflict into a much larger cultural movement to gain sympathy. This tension between the actual case details and the broader societal interpretation has become the defining feature of the conversation. It's no longer about a movie or a contract. It's about who gets to define the truth. The shift in public reaction over the last few months has been nothing short of dramatic. Early on, there was a wave of sympathy and unified support for Blake across mainstream outlets. But as more documents, leaked messages, and behind-the-scenes claims surfaced, the tone became much more divided. What started as a straightforward story has evolved into a layered and contested debate. People are no longer taking information at face value. They are looking for patterns, contradictions, and signs of spin. The consensus has vanished, replaced by a deep-seated skepticism that makes every new headline a battleground. The involvement of the organization Vital Voices added another layer of complexity to the already messy timeline. When they publicly revoked an award from Justin Baldoni shortly after allegations surfaced, it was initially seen as a move of solidarity. However, internet sleuths quickly pointed out that Blake follows the organization on social media, fueling speculation about behind-the-scenes influence. While there's no verified evidence of a direct connection, the mere perception of it was enough to ignite the internet. It showed how even small digital interactions can be interpreted as symbolic signals of a much larger, more coordinated strategy. As Blake's image has taken a hit, Justin Baldoni's perception has moved in the opposite direction. In many corners of the internet, he has taken on the role of the underdog. Users who believe he has been unfairly targeted or misrepresented have started to rally around him, creating a counter-narrative that is gaining serious steam. This is a common dynamic in celebrity controversies, where the public often gravitates toward the person they perceive to have less power in the struggle. Once the underdog framing takes hold, it's incredibly difficult to reverse, and right now, Justin is winning that particular battle. The creative process of the film is now being re-examined with a focus on who actually held the reins. Unnamed insiders have claimed that Justin's original creative direction was actually much closer to the final theatrical version than anyone wanted to admit. This contradicts earlier speculation that external influences had to step in and save the project. If Justin's vision was the one that ultimately worked, it raises huge questions about why there was so much conflict in the first place. It suggests that the drama wasn't about the quality of the work, but about who got to take the credit for its success. Meme culture has also played a massive role in cementing these new perceptions. Viral edits and satirical posts have turned a complex legal disagreement into a simplified story with clear heroes and villains. Once a controversy reaches the stage of parody, it's almost impossible for any party to regain control of the narrative. Humor and repetition are far more effective at shaping public opinion than any formal press release or courtroom motion. The memes have already decided how this story ends, and they aren't being particularly kind to the side that appears to be trying too hard to manage the message. The volume of statements and clarifications coming from Blake's side has actually backfired in some ways. Online users are pointing to the constant stream of media framing as evidence of defensiveness rather than strength. In high-profile legal disputes, PR and legal strategy usually work together, but when the PR becomes too visible, it starts to look like a cover-up. Audiences are now scrutinizing her past interviews and appearances with a heightened level of attention, searching for any small contradiction that might prove their theories. Every old clip is being repurposed as new evidence in the trial of public opinion. The sensitivity of brands involved in this mess cannot be overstated. Companies and commercial partners are watching the audience response very closely, and they are notoriously risk-averse. Any perception of sustained negativity or backlash can lead to a quiet distancing from the celebrities involved. This is why the reputation stakes are so high. It's not just about a movie, it's about future endorsements and marketability. If the public continues to view Blake as an isolated or controversial figure, we might see a significant shift in which luxury brands choose to align themselves with her moving forward. There's also the Taylor Swift factor that keeps popping up in these discussions. Because of their long-standing friendship, social media users are constantly looking for signs of solidarity or distance between the two. They revisit old interviews and map out their public appearances together, trying to find any clue about where Taylor stands in this conflict. In the world of modern celebrity, these connections are treated as pieces of a larger puzzle. Even if Taylor has nothing to do with the legal case, her association with Blake makes her a permanent part of the conversation, for better or for worse. What we are seeing is a real-time case study in how modern celebrity narratives evolve when they hit the high-speed feedback loop of the internet. Perception is no longer something that can be controlled with a single interview or a well-placed article. It's fluid, reactive, and shaped by thousands of individual voices, all analyzing the same information at once. In this environment, even a neutral event can be interpreted as a meaningful signal. The gap between what is happening in the courtroom and what the public believes is growing wider every day, and that gap is where the real story is being told. Ultimately, the judge's ruling was a turning point that shifted the focus back to the facts, but the public has already moved far beyond the legal record. The story of Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has become a broader cultural phenomenon about power, reputation, and the struggle for creative control. As the legal process continues to drag on, the public sentiment will likely keep evolving, but the damage to the once perfect image of Hollywood's golden couple may already be done. In the end, the court of public opinion might be the only one that truly matters for the future of their careers.